Dystopia warning, obviously. As you and everyone in the world will be aware, old Vincent van Gogh there got pew-pewed the other day, didn't he? They pew-pewed right at him. I say they because it's been revealed now that the person that did the pew-pewing was a trans man. Yeah, wearing a rainbow outfit, listening to Young Hearts Run Free, who was actually, at the time of doing the old, was receiving an abortion. I know, man, it's really hard to deal with the brutal truth of this on so many levels, isn't it? I want to start by saying that all jokes aside, and there will be jokes in this, despite many of his supporters calling for me to be imprisoned over the weekend for making jokes. And they were my mild ones. Yeah, those people presumably weren't here for the whole, Boris Johnson will be a worse caretaker than Ian Huntley days, or the numerous times that I referred to Boris Johnson as Fred West. But I had to stop that, didn't I? Because, unlike Boris Johnson, we know how many kids Fred West had. Found quite an interesting crossover in a lot of the people that were calling for my head, quite literally. Yeah, for making a quite innocuous comment on it. There's a real crossover between the old National Front lot and TERFs, isn't there? Which proves that it's not really about women's rights at all, is it? And that they don't really care about free speech. Or in my case, the deep-seated urge to piss take. But the comment that I made attracted a bit of backlash. And when I say a bit of backlash, I'm talking hundreds of threats, death threats. Do you want to see what I said? I posted this on the hate platform known as Twitter, in full knowledge that had survived, and with no knowledge that other people had not. The orange R word, I even have to censor, a crime that mostly affects me and my gender, has reportedly been shot at one of his hate rallies tonight. Oh dear, how sad. Anyway, bit nippy tonight, isn't it? That's literally all I said. People were calling it incitement, were saying that I supported what happened to him and supported the concept of political violence broadly, which is nonsense. You see, I don't think that we should martyr them. As we have discovered, it only makes them more powerful. The problem with political violence is it escalates. It takes us back to being like, dumb apes who are incapable of reasoning, or in his case, forming coherent sentences. Plus, it's a little bit hypocritical, isn't it, for people to be aghast at me not caring about this incident, about what happened to him, as some form of incitement, and then yet levelling, horrific threats at me. Kind of doesn't give you the moral high ground there, does it? No. Mind you, I don't think the fellow even knows what moral high ground is, both literally in terms of its meaning and its, application. You see, I can't stand that creature for so many reasons. Mostly his crimes, those he's been accused of and convicted of so far. Do I think he deserves to get pewed? Absolutely not, no. I think he should be in prison, which would dramatically reduce his risk of being pewed in itself, wouldn't it, if justice had been served for the numerous things that he's been accused of, including inciting an insurrection to overturn the democratic result of an election. But I discovered that the numerous bot farms that work for him, and some regular people that aren't bots but are unfortunately as thick as a submarine door, don't like any form of criticism whatsoever. No. There's also a few people on the right and the far right in Britain that don't like it either, but they're the worst people imaginable. So if they're coming after me, then I'm on the right side of history. But come after me, they did. Yeah, and they incited a wave of abuse towards me. Should we have a little look at who they were? Yeah. There was that creature. She has something to say about everything, doesn't she? There's no low she won't stoop to, including mocking Kate Garraway as she was grieving the death of her husband. She said, "Get this evil witch out of the public square." You talking about yourself, love? You are the genital warts of Twitter, bloody irritating and equally hard to get rid of. Well, she'd know all about that, wouldn't she? The woman that was photographed stopping someone else's husband in a field probably has quite a lot of knowledge of STIs. Yeah, I am hard to get rid of and I'm not going anywhere. This is the same woman that laid into Jess Phillips for her looks this week. Katie Hopkins laying into someone for their looks. She looks like a bad sketch of an old horse that's been drawn by a partially sighted child. She's all in there with Tommy Robinson, and she flew out to America. Her leaving Britain is probably the only high point to all of this, really, isn't it? Not just her, though, no. Lawrence Fox decided to weigh in too, with this kind of faux sense of morality. considering the fact that he uploaded a post that I can't even show you that consisted purely of the N-word being repeated, and he posted a picture of himself and his children in blackface. Don't really think he's the person to be dishing out advice on how to be moral. In fact, he's the reason that Billie Piper has repeatedly asked Google if it's possible to unfuck somebody, and the answer is no.
Got access to the kids, but they don't want to see me.
This creature also thought that it was a good idea to weigh in and share a screenshot of my innocuous tweet. You'd have thought he'd be keeping a low profile, really, considering the suspensions and the allegations that were made against him, which were dropped by the Met. I would just like to remind you that charges being dropped isn't the same as not guilty. No. When someone is found not guilty, it's after a criminal trial. But one thing that they should really investigate Dan Wootton for were the numerous allegations of him stealing flowers from Buckingham Palace after the Queen died. There's absolutely no chance that this footage that I'm about to show you is faked. You can't rewind video. We don't have the technology.
Somebody drew a picture. Oh, that's sweet. How'd you guys do it? See there? Somebody drew a picture? No, but it's nice.
For the avoidance of doubt, and because he loves to sue everybody, that's obviously a fucking joke, isn't it? Guess who else weighed in? 30p Lee, who referred to me as sick. Really? I've never been sacked for Islamophobia before. I think one of the reasons he doesn't like me is because I mercilessly roast him based on his actions, obviously. And I've also asked a lot of questions about this, the report that was put out by the Times, like in October 2023, when at a Beers with Lee event, I can't imagine anything worse. He said that he was offered a lot of money to join Reform UK, and then completely coincidentally, he got himself all suspended from the Tories, didn't he, like 4 months later, and then defected to Reform UK. One of their recent MPs, James McMurdoch, has been revealed to have assaulted his girlfriend 20 years ago. They kept that quiet in the run-up to his election, didn't they? Although, unfortunately, I don't think it would make a difference to people that vote for this lot, because they're all hard up the arse of the US right wing, the MAGA nutters. Farage has already abandoned Clacton, a constituency that we all thought he was going to work so hard for, to run off and rim Trump, obviously. I wonder if he's travelling via light aircraft again. You see, the people I just mentioned, they all knew that by screenshotting an innocuous tweet from me, it would send untold levels of abuse my way. I've actually had to seek police help with this. And that's why I've taken a couple of days offline. But if you think that I'm going to be bullied off my platform by thick fascists, you've got another thing coming. Makes me laugh that they throw the threat of violence at me anyway. I'm a woman, mate. I live with the threat of violence every single day of my life. The hypocrisy of it too. We should all be very worried about these connections, which I'll go into in more detail in my next video. In this one, I just wanted to do a little revenge roast, if I'm honest with you. We all know that political violence is wrong. Someone should probably tell him though. Just a thought. Because there's absolutely no low that those lot won't stoop to. And after the kind of high of getting some kind of rational governance back in Britain, it's like, boom, the US election. Got to hand it to the guy. He's excellent at getting a PR shot, even when he's literally just been shot. And there's a lot of people speculating that that would have won him the next election. This is why, one of many reasons why, you don't shoot them. Bad people, because of sod's law and life not being fair, live long and happy lives in most cases. And that's not incitement, that's not a reference to this, it's just a broader reference. Shitheads live. What doesn't die with them is ideology. The mentality, or lack thereof, doesn't go with them. Now, the people that them lot are targeting in America are very similar to the people that Reform UK are targeting here. The poorer, the working class areas. They invented the playbook that Reform and the particularly mad Tories are working from. Go to a really poor, really deprived area, con a whole bunch of people into voting against their best interests by deflecting and blaming brown people, and definitely not blaming the white rich men in posh suits that just so happen to turn up and tell them all to blame the brown people. It's textbook, people fall for it. Now, we've just rejected that in Britain, but we desperately need the next Labour government to deliver so this mentality, which isn't going away anytime soon, doesn't set in in Britain. Although sadly, what happens in the US election will affect us, because unfortunately, them lot do not live in a vacuum. And I feel very, very sorry for the people in America that are decent, that are having to watch this circus unfold. There are a lot of good people in America, and I hope that when presented with, to be fair, not the best two options, they choose the option that's not mental, that's not going to turn their country into like the Handmaid's Tale 2.0. Because whilst Biden might have trouble remembering basic things, he's not an insane dictator. And Biden's deputy, as far as I'm aware, does not praise Alex Jones as a truth teller. You know, the guy that hounded the Sandy Hook victims' parents. Fuck me. Got a feeling there's going to be a need for a dystopia warning for a lot longer. And I might comment a bit on the American election, but they'll probably try and kill me. No, really. Got hundreds of screenshots to prove it, mate. And unlike the Secret Service agents that barely did their job, I don't think that is worth dying for. So yeah, until next time, I'm off to have a Valium supper.